This past weekend, the Thieves faced off in the Major Four tournament where they ended up taking sixth place. They started off pretty hot up against the Miami Heretics, where they ended up winning. They continued on in the winners bracket where they faced LAG next. Unfortunately, they did fall in that match. That put them down to losers bracket, where they then had to face NYSL, where they ended up losing and kind of ended their run on the Major Four tournament. And, I really think that the Thieves did a pretty good job starting off hot on most of their matches, but it kind of just fizzled out. And we'll kind of talk about that. I think the Thieves getting sixth place is actually a benefit for the Thieves because this is the best placement they've had all year. I think the biggest thing for the Thieves going into this tournament was to try and make sure they made champs, and they were able to do that just on the first match alone. So they did what they went to the major to do, and anything can happen at champs. So to me, this major, obviously, we would have loved to see the Thieves do maybe a little better, but to me, I can't complain too much about it because, as I said, this is their best showing in a tournament so far. And we'll get into, the way things kind of played out, but the overall look of it for me is that this team is a good team, and they really showed it when they played Miami in that first series, and it just didn't really show through against the other two teams that they faced off against. And this is just a time frame where if players have bad maps or they just kind of have a bad series, it really really affects you. And in tournaments on LAN, that might happen sometimes, but these are the times that they really need to lock in. And I felt like they did that in the first map, and there were just a lot of little situations here and there throughout the next two series that kind of were the demise for them, really. I think losing to LAG was probably the biggest factor to all of that. I think the way they played against New York was actually pretty solid, but the way they lost to LAG was just probably not a good thing for them when it came to their mental headspace after that. But before I continue yapping on about this, let's just jump into the breakdown of the matches. As I said, the Thieves played against the Heretics in their first series, so naturally we're going to start off with that. For the overview of things, Ghosty had an absolutely insane series with a plus 37, a 1.52 KD. I mean, the guy decided that we were gonna make champs. He really did. He popped takeover. He went crazy, and really Joe Deceives actually had a pretty good series too, despite him being a zero point 0.9 KD overall. It really was kind of the high rise for the Thieves where a lot of their guys kind of lost that KD. Nasty had a solid series, only -2, and Kremp was -11, which I don't think he necessarily played bad either. Again, that high rise control really kind of did a lot of damage to their KD. So I think the KD side of it really can't look too deep into that. And on the Heretics side, you had Lucky, who was -12, Metals -5, and then Real and Vickle broke even and +2. The match MVP was Ghosty, and as I said, I mean, dropping a 1.52 KD plus 37, and this is to make champs. You gotta give the guy his credit. He definitely deserved it. He did a great job in this series. But the map one, we had Rio Hardpoint. This is a map that the Thieves have been really good at. Their hardpoint on Rio has been very, very good. And really, I'm pretty confident every time they go into a Rio hardpoint. Now, we'll jump into that when it comes to their matches against LAG and New York, because that's a little bit of a different story. But they still have been playing it well, whether they win or lose. The outcome hasn't really, affected how I view it. I think they do a really good job of playing the map either way, whether they win or lose. So to me, Rio has been a really good pick for them on hardpoint. Seeing that was a map they were going to get, I was pretty excited for it. The only concern I had was the Heretics are also pretty good at that map. And really, the crazy thing was the Heretics started off really hot. Real was kind of the guy who kept everything going for them. He was, shooting laser beams. Vickle had some moments where he was doing the same thing. But the Thieves started off slow, I want to say, on the first, like, 1 to 2, like, hills. And then they kind of started to lock it down. They chained things together a lot more. Um, yeah, from the flow chart here, you can see, like I said, those first 2 hills, the Thieves, they kept it close, but they kill wise, they started off really hot. And then after that, that was where they were able to, take more control and really lock down this map. And once they got that lead after that second hard point, Miami was never able to take it back. We led heavily in the kills department and the damage department as well. Really just a solid map out of the Thieves. They even did a listen in, and their listen in was probably the best we've heard from them all year. They sounded a lot more calm and a lot more collected. They were just making, really good decisions and listening to each other really well. So, to me, that just shows how far this team has come throughout this year. A lot of things have happened, and people are, naturally upset that the Thieves lost. I'm upset the Thieves lost. The Thieves are upset the Thieves lost. But, I've seen some people, it seems like they're coming for players' heads and stuff like that. And it's like, the team just keeps getting better, though. Like, yes, there's still moments where things aren't great, but you got to keep in mind we're the youngest team in the league. Like, mistakes are going to happen. It is what it is. But they sounded a lot better. And that's something that we didn't get to see earlier in the year. Even last split, we weren't hearing them communicating the way they were in this match. So that was a really good moment to see and to hear from the Thieves camp. But Joe DeCeves was kind of the catalyst for all this. I believe at one point he started off like 14-4. He finished with a +10. He was 32-22. The guy was just unkillable. It felt like he was moving all over the place, getting a ton of kills, and everybody besides Nasty is in the positive. Nasty's the only one who's negative with a -2. Really not that bad. They did a great job closing them out in that first hard point, 250 to 149. So that was a good solid lead. Good to get things rolling early on because our search and destroy has been really solid. So if you can get that first map, you're not necessarily guaranteeing a 2-0, but you have a really good likelihood of getting a 2-0. And that's exactly what the Thieves did here when we look at this search and destroy on Invasion. Thieves were able to close this one out 6-4, and Ghosty had a masterclass of a map here, going +11 with a 3.75 KD. This guy needs to get paid after this year. I'll tell you what, this guy has been putting in work. He deserves to get paid. Hopefully, that is on the Thieves. That's what I'm hoping for. Hopefully, the Thieves do everything in their power to retain this guy. Obviously, I don't know anything about the Thieves' financial statements, nothing like that, but this guy needs to stay a Thief. Absolutely no questions in my mind. Like, whatever happens in the offseason, he needs to stay. Great map out of him, 15-4. And everybody else was negative, but Joe DeCeves was only -1, Nasty was only -1, and Crump was -3. And to be fair, when you have a guy who's getting 15 kills, it's going to be hard to pick up some of these kills. Like, the guy was just, he didn't miss. He was getting so many kills. Lucky was the only one positive on the side of the Heretics with a +1 going 7-6. Real actually struggled a little bit on this map, going 6-10, -4. And from the breakdown here, the Thieves started off slow on this map. They lost the first 2 rounds, and I believe the first round was the only round where the Thieves got a first blood and did not convert it. They got the first blood early, and then that was, like I said, the only one they weren't able to close the map on, or the round on, sorry. And then after that, I believe every round that the Heretics won, they got the first blood. They won that round. And I think I don't know if it was the last round or if it was uh, the third to last round where the Thieves got first blooded, but they were still able to close out the round. Um, but they were able to get that win here in the middle. That was their first blood. They close it out, and then Miami fights back, gets the next win, and then after that we rattle off 4 round wins in a row. That was really big. And the last round that the Heretics won, the Thieves kind of, I don't want to say they threw it away, but I think they got a little too excited with Ghosty getting his kill streak. He used it, right from the start, and yes, it gives information, but there's really a lot of places for Miami to hide to start off the round, and that's exactly what they did, and then they were able to kind of fight back and end up taking the round because Ghosty was not able to get a kill with the cruise missile. But we ended up winning the next round, so nothing to stress about. They still got it done. Just felt like maybe that was a situation where they could have used their kill streak in maybe a different position. Now, going into this high-rise control, the Thieves had been looking pretty good on high-rise control. Now, the counter to that is Miami has also been looking really good at high-rise control. Maybe it didn't show in their overall stats from the past major or however long. I don't remember how long they had mentioned it on stream, but they looked really good on this control. Real started off insane. I believe he started off 9-0. The Thieves couldn't kill him. He was just getting great timings, hitting the right spots, and then just held the Thieves in the trap. They had defense first round, and that led Real to kind of be able to get this +10. I mean, once you get 10 kills without dying, at that point, unless you get put in the blender at some point, your KD should be pretty solid. He finished with a 1.45, 32 and 22. And Vickle was 1.29 KD with a +7, 31 and 24. And the Thieves, like I said, they just got blendered in that first round. That's where you see Joe Deceives with the -11 and Kremp with the -12. I mean, you're playing a sub on a AR heavy map, I would say, and they had you spawn trapped. So there's really not much you can do for the most part. Miami's defenses were really good, but the Thieves were able to take one offense. They weren't able to close out the last one, but the Heretics were just they got hot and they were all shooting really well. That's why Lucky and Metals, they were negative but only -1. And for the Thieves, Nasty was +1 and Ghosty was +7. If I'm not mistaken, they had a chance to close it out, but the Thieves had so little time to try and get on the point in that last round. And, again, defense heavy map. They got offense in the last round. They were trying to cap B, and they had 2 people on, but the Heretics were just able to get an easy double kill, and there was 2 seconds left. So there was, at that point, they really needed to get those kills on the point to give themselves a chance. And it just, it didn't work out that way. So Thieves ended up losing the control 3-2. Now, this Karachi hardpoint was crazy. I really didn't know what to think about the Thieves playing Karachi. I feel like this has been the one hardpoint map that the last several times they've played it, they've just kind of looked a little discombobulated. When you compare the Rio hardpoint to their Karachi hardpoint, the Rio, they just seem like they're playing chess almost. They know where everything's happening. They know they're reading a lot of things. They're reacting to things the right way. Whereas with Karachi, sometimes it seems like they're just kind of getting lost. And I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but a lot of times this is the map that the Thieves players tend to struggle on. Our scores don't always reflect it, but the Thieves actually started off down, I want to say 120 points. Miami was able to just chain hill after hill after hill. And even Ghosty had said in his interview after the fact, The reason they were kind of able to get this comeback started, the Thieves had a clean 4 dead on the P5 hill, and once they got that, they kind of said, "Hey, we have a chance here. Let's reset and let's lock in." And from there, that's exactly what they did. Um, I think it was this hill right here, the P5, where, as you can see, they were down 149 to 31, and they get 4 dead. And after that, things just spike. They're able to chain the next couple hills. I believe in this P1 reset that Nasty was in the point, and the Thieves were able to just kind of keep him alive, despite the fact that Miami was really flooding in pretty hard. So they did a really good job of being able to chain those points, with Nasty being able to stay alive there and them, slaying everybody out. The Thieves were able to push through fire and top red and get to the new hard point, where they ended up getting the kills there as well. That's what led them to chain this rotation and, get themselves back in the game. It did get very scary towards the end, though, because as you can see, there were some ups and downs here, and really it was only a 5-point game. So there was a lot going on at the end of the match, and the Thieves had all of these chained together, but on this hill right here, they left Lucky alive on the hard point. They had 2 people that were around it, and they just left Lucky, who was weak, on the hard point. That's what allowed them to get to that 231 mark. And then from there, they had a streak. Miami had a streak, and the Thieves were trying to, get the rotations. They get broken really early, so Miami takes the lead on that. And then they call in their streak, they get a kill, and the Thieves have to find a way to break into the P3 hardpoint, which is not an easy point to break. And the way it worked out, the Thieves just got great timing. They were able to get the first blood. And I don't remember who's on the hill, but whoever it was, he was really weak, so he had to get off the hill. That saved some time for the Thieves to be able to make the break. They end up, getting in. They get 3 dead, and they take the last couple seconds that they needed in order to win the map. And man, that was we call them Heart Attack Thieves for a reason. It's all of the Thieves, all of 100 Thieves. Like, every Thieves team seems to be Heart Attack Thieves. They definitely were trying to give me a heart attack with that map. But they closed it out, and the boys were yapping afterwards. They were talking some shit. I love to see it. Ghosty was saying he was Miami Heretics' dad in Spanish. He pulled out the Spanish for the Spanish team, and Joe Deceives just was pointing, laughing. I was saying we should probably call him the Joker because of that. And yeah, it was just crazy ending, but Thieves were able to win it, so that pushed them in farther along in the winners bracket. Now, the crazy thing was, originally I was anticipating if the Thieves would win, that they were going to have to face off against Toronto Ultra in their next match. Crazy thing happens. LAG beat Toronto. Now, how they beat Toronto, I don't really know, but they were able to get through, and this is where things kind of went wrong for the Thieves. I don't know what it is. The Thieves just seem to have a mental block when it comes to playing against the Guerrillas. I mean, honestly, the Thieves have always been a better team than the Guerrillas. I think they are a better team than the Guerrillas this year. They have been a better team than the Guerrillas in the past, and yet the Thieves just can't seem to beat the Guerrillas. They have I think it's a 3-9 or 4-9. I don't know. It's not a good look for the Thieves against the Guerrillas all time. So I was hoping that with the Thieves having beat them online in a 3-0 fashion, that we would be able to lock in and finish out this series and continue to move on in that winners bracket. If we would have won this series, we would have been top 3 guaranteed. The first map we played, Rio Hardpoint, where, again, it has been a great map for the Thieves, and they should have won this map. This was a map that the Thieves did a really good job of handling business for most of the map. And the problem was, towards the end, they let things go. You can see LAG started off with more of the points, but then the Thieves just skyrocketed. And then after that, they kind of just lost their momentum. They got chained for a couple hills, and that allowed LAG to get back into things. And then they just weren't able to break at the very end. And I don't know exactly what it was that caused that to happen. At least at the very end, the breaking, because they were in the right spots, it seemed, but they didn't get the kills they needed, and they didn't get a lot of trades. I think that was the thing I noticed in their two series losses was there were many situations where they were getting two or even three piece without a trade, and that's just not something that you can do consistently and expect to win the series. That really didn't happen a lot against Miami, except for in the control and for the first like half of the last hard point. Outside of that, the Thieves did a really good job of winning the trade battle, or at the very least keeping it even. But it felt like in this series, the Thieves did a lot of like not solo pushes, but they weren't getting a lot of team pushes. It was a lot of broken pushes, and on this rise here in the hard point, I felt like the Thieves did a good job of doing everything as a team, and then they got wiped a couple times and things broke, and that's just kind of how it continued to go at that point. Joe Deceives was having a really good map. Ghosty had a really good map as well. +5 and +4 for both of them. 30 and 26 for Joe Deceives, and 29 and 24 for Ghosty. Kremp had a little bit of a slower one. He was -8, 22 and 30, and Nasty was only -2, 27 and 29. I don't think that either of those guys had bad maps. They were getting out traded and things didn't work out. Kremp started off slow, I want to say, and started to pick it up towards the end. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to kind of catch all the way back up. And then for LAG, Fame was -12. I mean, 19 and 31, and we still lost the map. That's not ideal. But like I said, they just seem to be getting all the trades that they needed. As you can see, the kill department and the damage department is pretty much split 50-50. So at that point, it's just kind of like the timing of kills and things like that. And the Thieves just didn't get the right timings. But this was definitely a map they should have won. As I said before, despite the outcome, despite them losing 250 to 233, I do think this is still one of their best, if not their best, hardpoint map. I guess their best hardpoint is probably 6-star, which unfortunately they didn't get to, and this is another reason I was upset. They should have won this map. They should have won the high-rise search and destroy. I think their S&D is too good. They should not be losing S&D to a team like LAG. I just think they were able to beat New York in search and destroy. They were able to beat Miami in search and destroy. Like, high rise is, yes, maybe it's not a map that the Thieves necessarily play a lot, but I felt like the way they've played before and the way they have been playing, especially in S&D as a whole, that this should have gone in the Thieves' favor. Obviously, not in the same regard as the Rio. The Rio should have gone in their favor because they were winning the map. But in the search and destroy, the Thieves just, they weren't able to close it out. They were getting first blooded a lot, and that's something that doesn't typically happen to the Thieves. They're often the ones that are getting the first bloods. The opening duels 6-4. It just didn't seem like it was working well in their favor. They just were getting first blooded a lot, and they weren't able to convert once they got first blooded. So really just not the best search and destroy from them that we saw over the weekend. And it just came at probably the most unfortunate time, really, because they very easily could have been up at least 1-0 going into this. And I think that would have changed the mentality a little bit as well. But they had a chance to bounce back. And then once you go down, 2-0, it's really hard to bounce back from. That's where you get this invasion control, which they kept it close, 3-2. Invasion control has been their better control map, outside of high rise, as we said before. But they just weren't able to close this one out either. Nasty was -5, Joe Deceives -6, Ghosty -1. Kremp was the only one positive with a +1. Flames went insane, dropping a 1.65 KD, going 38 and 23. He did everything he could to get LAG to go through, and it's just frustrating for me because I really do feel like if they win this Rio, the first map, even if they lose these two, I think that these win this series because their 6-star is really, really good, and their Rio Search and Destroy is their best Search and Destroy. Like, they had their two best maps in the second half of the series, and they just didn't get to it. And I think if they would have been able to close out one of these three maps, they would have won the series, because I just don't see how LAG beats the Thieves on 6-star or Rio Search and Destroy. I just don't see it. There's really not many teams that I think would beat the Thieves on either of those maps, especially outside of the top four. The top four would be the ones that would give us the best show out of all of it. So, they ended up losing this one, and there were just moments that the Thieves were in winnable situations, and they didn't end up taking advantage of it. They didn't win the situations that they needed to. And that leads us to the last match that the Thieves faced off in before they bowed out of the major. And I mean, it's hard when you go up against New York because Hydra is a different beast, and he showed up. I mean, +28 on the series. He's just, when he's on, man, he's probably one of, if not the best player in the game. And he was on. The Thieves definitely struggled a lot more in this Rio hardpoint. But you had Hydra and Sib going +11 with a 1.52 KD and a 1.58 KD. It's not going to be easy to beat. Everybody on the Thieves was negative. Nasty -10, Ghosty -8. Really not ideal. Joe Deceives and Kremp, they started off pretty hot, but kind of slowed down, I'm sure, as Hydra started to amp up. Hydra and Kiz just got to the point where they were taken over, and the sub duels became easy for them. So that's what happens when you play New York sometimes. And New York was the team to go on and win the major. So very, very much credit to them. A lot of credit to them. Probably a better way of saying that. Don't know why I said it that way. But yeah, the kills heavily favored New York, and same as the damage. Yeah, just not really close. They kept it close for the first 3 hard points, and then after that, New York was just able to keep the control on. The Thieves did win the Invasion Search and Destroy, though. As I said earlier, Search and Destroy has been their best game mode. That is something that I think going into champs, as long as their Search and Destroy stays the same, if they can increase, whether it be their control or their hard point, I don't even think it needs to be both. I think it's one or the other. If they can improve one of those and keep their Search and Destroy where it's at, they will be a really good team, and they'll be a very big threat to whoever it is that they face off against, which we will talk about that. But the Thieves were able to win this Search and Destroy 6-3. They, like I said, their search just looks really good. They played it really well. They got a lot of first bloods again. That's something that the Thieves do really well. They get their first bloods and they convert. And that's been the biggest thing. When they convert after those first bloods, you can't stop them. So the Thieves were favored in the kills department as well as the opening duels. But it is pretty 50-50. And what was I going to say? Blanking out. But Ghosty +2, Cramp +3, and Nasty +6. Nasty had a really good map, and I believe he got a streak at some point. I think somebody on the Thieves got a streak. I can't remember who it was. But they, like I said, they just did a really good job. Won the first round. That's obviously a big start, especially after a loss on the first map. It's good to start off, get the ball rolling. They did lose the round after that, but then they go on to win 3 in a row. So Thieves did a really good job of not letting New York really get back into it, which, helped them a lot. And this invasion control, man, this is the heartbreaker. It's definitely the heartbreaker here. I think there's a chance if the Thieves are able to go to this, high rise search and destroy, that maybe they're able to take it. Obviously, I would have loved to see that opportunity, and unfortunately, we didn't get to. And it's all because of this invasion control. The Thieves did a really good job, actually, on both defense and offense, where they stopped New York pretty early in their tracks on this first defense, and on their offense, despite them losing, they got, I want to say it was 4 ticks, which on New York's first offense they did not get. I don't even know if they got B. They might have got B, but they didn't. They definitely didn't get any ticks on A. They weren't able to really touch A much, and when they did, the Thieves were able to kind of, get them out. So they did a really good job offensively. That led them to getting defense on the round 5, which is something that the Thieves have not really been doing much. And New York is a really good control team. This is probably their best mode, out of all the modes that they have. And not only that, but Invasion is probably their best control map. This is typically like Hydra's playground, and the Thieves were able to hold him to only +3. I mean, yes, he was 32 and 29, but we had Ghosty 36 and 29 with a +7, and Nasty was 32 and 29 +3. The issue was they got to round 5 and they got a joke of a spawn. Basically the entire team from New York spawned up A side. They were able to just run straight over. They got the far spawns that allowed them to get to A super quick, and they got 2 ticks off of that. Now, Joe Deceives, because I saw some people were giving Joe Deceives some shit, and I don't think he deserves it. Because if you look at the play beforehand where they had 3 people on A, Joe Deceives goes in there and gets 2 of them and puts in the damage to get the 3rd guy, so they wipe everybody on A. The problem was they had 1 tick left on A and B as well. New York spawns up. They're able to get onto the B point. They're able to cap it with it was like 2.2 seconds left. They cap B, and from there, the entire Thieves team is all on the B side of the map. So A is pretty open. The only player that was left over there was Joe Deceives, and he fought, I want to say it was Sib, and he lost the gunfight, and Sib was able to get on A, and that's what ended up closing out the round. I don't think Joe deserves to get shit for that. Everybody loses gunfights now and then. It's just unfortunate that that's when it happened. You would love to see him win that gunfight. Obviously, it didn't go that way. But what he did before that to stop them from getting A in that moment was very big. It was a huge play. So, to me, you cannot blame Joe Deceives for that situation. He lost a gunfight. It happens. It's unfortunate of the timing of the gunfight. Obviously, we all would have loved to see him win that gunfight. He would have loved to win that gunfight. It just didn't happen that way. He did everything he could to keep the Thieves alive, and it just didn't work out in their favor. So this was a really heartbreaking control, because this would have been a huge steal from the Thieves. A huge steal. Like, I did not think that the Thieves would have a chance at winning the invasion control, knowing that this is New York's best map and mode. So, I mean, heartbreaker. Really is. And then we close it out on the Vista hardpoint, where the Thieves have looked okay. They've been, I feel like, kind of back and forth on Vista. And, this Hydra just had an inspirational map, going 36 and 16, 2.25 KD in respawn. That's absolutely clinical. And then Kismet as well, 1.65. That's why, Joe and Kremp didn't do as hot, both -9. And then Nasty had a rough one going -12, 14 and 26. Ghosty was the closest one to breaking even at a -2, 22 and 24. They just this was not their map, man. I think a lot of the morale was probably sucked out of them after that control, and New York just came out hot. They knew they ended up stealing that last round, and I think it ended up working out in their favor. And obviously, it's going to be really hard to win when you have, like I said, arguably the best player in the game having an inspirational map to close out the series. That's how the Thieves ended up getting sent home, falling to New York, where New York was able to win the entire tournament. So I do give the Thieves credit for battling the way that they did. And I think there's a lot of little things that if they would have gone differently, the Thieves placing would have been different, and the way people are talking about the Thieves would be completely different. As I said before, the biggest thing for me is that the Thieves were able to make it to champs. We now have, I believe it's a 3-week break where the Thieves are able to keep practicing, keep getting in reps, and they're going to come back and see how they show up at champs. Now, the tough part is we face off against Toronto Ultra in our first series. Obviously not going to be an easy matchup, but Toronto did struggle this major. So there is a chance that based on how Toronto Ultra showed up, that if they show up similarly and the Thieves show up better, that maybe we're able to squeak out a win in this first round. I think based off of the way we played New York, as long as we tweak some things and play a little better, a little less sloppy, I think the Thieves are actually a pretty good team to watch. Like they played really well despite a lot of those little mistakes. If we can get our trades on point to where we're not getting 2-3 dead at a time most of the time, I think there's a good chance that the Thieves are able to beat Toronto. And if we lose, we would face the losers of Optic or LAG. And I don't know how that's going to go because Optic got dead last, or tied for dead last, I should say. And LAG beat Toronto. So there's really no telling of how this goes. But, from that point on, we'll just have to see. But that's kind of how champs is set up for now. As you can see, the teams that made it through: New York, Seattle, Atlanta, Miami, Toronto, Thieves, Texas, and Guerrillas. It's going to be a tough champs no matter what. You make it the champs. These are the best 8 in the game. And, all these guys made it here for a reason. So the Thieves are definitely going to have to bring their A game. They cannot sleep on any team. Obviously, I'm sure they're not sleeping on Toronto Ultra, but whether they win or lose, depending on who they face in the round after that, if it is LAG on either side of the bracket, because that could happen, we can't sleep on them again. We have to be able to close out a series against them, and I don't know if that will have to do with maps and modes, or as we said, just kind of locking in some of these smaller things that they kind of let slide in the last series against them. So we'll see how all of it goes. But, like I said, we do have about 3 weeks of time for the Thieves to practice before going into champs. So I would love to see probably some hardpoint improvements. I think their control is, it's not great, but to me, you have 2 hardpoint maps in a series. If you can, kind of lock in your hardpoints and have solid SNDs, the odds are just more in your favor. Controls are definitely a bit of a toss-up. So if you keep playing how you're playing controls right now, there's going to be times that you win them and you lose them. And right now, you only need to be able to play for one more tournament. This is for all the marbles. This is all we have left. So to me, I think locking down the hard point is probably our best option. And then as long as we keep our search and destroy where it's been at, I think we will be set and we will be a really good team, a scary team to face off against. Somebody you can't take lightly. And I think that's the biggest thing that the Thieves can do at this point, just based on, you know, where we're at in the year. So I'm really excited for it. I think it should be a good champs no matter what. And obviously we can talk like off season after that, but I really don't want to dive into too much off season stuff right now because I do think champs will have a lot of implications on what happens in the off season for the Thieves, but also for other teams as well. So I think it's best to kind of just wait that out and see how everything plays out before we start, jumping into, some roster moves and roster mania. I also don't know how it's going to work out when it comes to the, I don't even know what it's called, but the Saudi Arabia Call of Duty tournament, world tournament, or whatever it is. Because the Thieves are supposed to be in that, and their rosters are supposed to be set by a certain time. So I think if the roster is set at that point, that's who we're going to get, at the very least until that tournament, which is later in the summer. So we'll see how that goes. Roster Mania may be pushed down the line because of that, but we'll just have to wait and see. That is going to do it before I continue to ramble on about nothing. So yeah, I appreciate everybody who tunes in. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit that like and subscribe button. Helps me out trying to continue to grow this channel. And I know I was gone for a little bit, but now that I'm back, I am going to get back to posting again, trying to get more videos up as well. And we might start diving into some Valorant as well, since the Thieves and Call of Duty is going to be slowing down in a little bit. So we'll see. I did apply for a internship position at the Thieves, so if I happen to get that, things might slow down as well. But obviously, there's no guarantees for anything like that, so we'll just kind of play all that stuff by ear. But yeah, that's going to do it. As I said before, please hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.